Hi, my name is Clement, and I'm the Director of Sales here at MetaStock. In this video, I'd like to talk to you about PowerStrike. PowerStrike is a unique MetaStock add-on in that it combines the power of support and resistance with easily definable option strike pricing. By putting these two elements together, we get a more defined support and resistance. We'll be talking about other elements of PowerStrike as we go through, such as the scoring system. With that, let's go ahead and go into MetaStock and view what PowerStrike can do. To understand the concepts of PowerStrike, we actually first need to talk about the concepts of support and resistance. Support and resistance is designed to help us understand market buying and selling pressure. So if we're talking about support is a level below the market where buying pressure exceeds selling pressure and a decline is halted. So if I was looking at a chart, we can see selling pressure coming here, and then buying pressure reverses that, and we can see several examples of this. So this gives us a support line. The opposite is true for resistance. Resistance is a level above the market where selling pressure exceeds buying pressure and a rally is halted. So if we look at a concept of resistance, we can see buying pressure halted by selling pressure at the same point at several different times. The way PowerStrike works is it actually uses the concept of support and resistance, but it uses it around option strike pricing. So the idea behind option strike pricing is that usually people are more in tune with easily used numbers, numbers such as 20, 30, 40, rather than numbers like 19 or 17 or 8 or things like that. So it's really designed to help us as traders draw more attention to certain areas. So what we look for with option strike pricing is if we have a security that trades between $5 and $25, it will trade in increments of 2.5. That's where our strike price comes in. So an example would be $5, $7.50, $10, $12.50. If the price of the security is between $25 and $200, well then that strike price moves to increments of $5. So we'd move 25.30, 35.40, 45.50, etc. So the guiding principle here is that many traders' attention is drawn to these numbers, providing for more concentrated buying and selling. So if you look at optionable stocks or things like that, you'll see prices congregate around these strike price levels because they're so common in the trading of options. So if we look at this example here, we can see what we call here the red line called the up strike and the green line down here called the down strike. So those are concepts within PowerStrike that we use to define those option strike prices. Up strike is the one above, down strike is the one below. So the up strike in this circumstance here, we can see our price is at $74.25. The up strike is at $75. And we can see that price is really congregating around that and tends to pull right around that area. Down here, the down strike, we can see 70 has been a level where price has congregated previously. But this is our main up strike price right now. So let's move forward and talk a little bit more about this. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other lines as we proceed through. So our next principle is basically stating that those levels give us a greater influence on important buying and selling. So rather than just standard buying and selling, we're looking for concentrated buying and selling. So if we can identify where people tend to come for price, we can look for those concentrated levels of buying and selling. So those option strike price levels attract more attention from the market participants over other levels. Next, we talk about bullish and bearish pressure at option strike prices levels resolve more quickly than pressures at other levels as well. So when we get to those levels, they can relieve more quickly because prices tend to be very resilient. Okay, so we can't just rely on the price to give us entries and exits. We need more definition. So what we do with PowerStrike is we actually put in what's called a pivot scoring system. And it uses two different types of pivots. One, it uses pivot lows, and then it also uses pivot highs. So if we're looking at a pivot low or a pivot high, this will give us an indication of a change in trend along with that strike price. So what happens is we will actually give a scoring based off of the pivots. So if we're looking at pivots plus volume will give us a score. The greater the volume, the greater the score. So when I'm showing you a chart here in just a moment, you'll see scoring on different bars labeled 1, 3, or 5. And those scores are determined by the pivot plus an accumulation of volume. If volume's trading greater over a few days versus just one day, it's going to give it a higher score, lending more possibilities to a greater change with that. And then it accumulates that score over time. So here's an example of that, where you'll see these scores on a chart. So you can see we have 5s, 1s, 3s. Now the color is basically indicative of the score. So if you're seeing a green, it's a 3 score. If you're seeing a blue, it's a 1 score. If you're seeing a red, it's a 5 score. And so those take into account volume along with the scoring. So again, the greater the volume, the greater the score on that pivot. So you can see an example of that here. Okay, so that's how our scoring is taking place. So let's actually here now, instead of staying in the PowerPoint, let's actually go out to a chart and look at a chart. So here we have an example of PowerStrike applied to a chart. So let's talk about the scoring here for a moment and how it works. So you're going to see these volatility bands, and that's what these are called here, around the upstrike and the downstrike. You'll see these red dotted lines that bulge and contract and pull in and out. So these are measurements of volatility around the upstrike and the downstrike. So what happens is the scoring, you will notice, doesn't go back any further than the volatility bands. So if I put a line there, basically the scoring only takes place from those volatility bands forward to give us an accurate score. So let's go into the expert commentary here. And you'll see here, we see accumulation score for our upstrike and downstrike. Our upstrike score, so our upstrike here is at 55, okay, giving us 9 points. So 9 points around the upstrike. Down here, our downstrike's at 50, so our price level at 50 is scoring at 24 points. So cumulative points around the downstrike is 24. So that triggers down here a buy. Now, you can use PowerStrike however you'd like. You can use it as a trading system, but it was actually designed to be a confirmation system. So so if you're using a different strategy, let's say you're using the MACD or the RSI, you can actually use this as a confirmation. So if you got if we were looking at this chart and we had a MACD buy signal today, we could then apply the PowerStrike and use it as a confirmation. So we're showing that the scoring is pushing it out back up above the downstrike, giving us a stronger buy signal. So what it requires is that the downstrike score is at least 8 points, so it has to have at least 8 points down here for it to be able to qualify, and it is at least 33% greater than the upstrike score. So if these were both equal, it wouldn't give us that trigger. It would say this isn't valid yet because it doesn't have a strong enough score to push it back up. So then the last thing it looks for, the close is in the downstrike support zone. Okay, so we're in the support zone. And the forecasted trend is above the downstrike. Now the forecasted trend it's talking about is actually this solid red line here. So if I hover over it, you can see this is called the time series forecast. So the time series forecast indicator is a big part of this in understanding that direction of price. So you can see it's actually above the downstrike, and that gives it another push toward that buy signal. So that's the setup criteria for all the signals to come together. So it has to give you this. So using the commentary window is a strong part of using PowerStrike. Now, I had mentioned earlier that you can use this to confirm signals. Now, one of the biggest ways to do that is actually with the Explorer. So if you are scanning for buy opportunities, let's say on a MACD, or if you're scanning for an RSI or whatever your criteria may be, you're actually going to be looking for that opportunity through the Explorer. So let's go into the Explorer and just take a quick look at this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we can do one of two things. We can set up a scan and we can scan for it, which we're going to do. Let's find, I'm going to use a method here called the Elder Flip to Green. Now this is a scan that's set up in Dr. Elder's plugin, Come Into My Trading Room. and it's a great one for identifying reversals. So what we're going to do here is just go ahead and click Next, and then we can scan any list of stocks that you want. So if you're looking for optionable stocks, so optionable stocks is a great one to scan because it's actually optionable stocks are obviously related to option strike pricing, so that's a great one to scan. Can you use it on other lists? Absolutely. But the optionable stocks are going to have more of a credence towards these option strike pricing because they are traded around that. I'm just going to scan a quick watch list here for this example. So we'll just do this, click Next, and start my exploration. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and get a list of stocks that are meeting that criteria. Okay, so here's all my stocks that are meeting that criteria right now. So these are all triggering a buy. Well, that's a lot of stocks to go through. Okay, so what we're going to do here then is actually take that same list and put it against the adaptive PowerStrike. So I'm going to take the PowerStrike scan here, go Next, do Results of Last Exploration, and select all. So now I'm only going to look at the ones that are giving me and matching my criteria. So let's go ahead and choose Next, Start. And now what we're going to do is have it look at the PowerStrike criteria to see if it matches and actually matches our scoring. So let's give that a second to just get through and identify which ones actually meet our criteria. Now we can see it's actually rejecting out quite a few. We probably maybe got one or two there that matched up. And let's go ahead and look at our report. Okay, so now here we see our results. So now if we had more than one, we could see that if it had a 1, it's meeting the criteria. If it had a -1, it would be a short. So if I was scanning for short signals and I saw a -1, that would be part of my criteria. Okay, over here we have the SR ratio. The SR ratio is the scoring. So the higher the score, the more powerful it is. So we can use that as part of it. So that's actually the chart we're looking at here in the background, which is this Oaktree Capital Group. So we can see here that it's triggered that, it's given the buy enabled, and it's matching all of our criteria. So here I have two criteria lending me more into a buy opportunity. And that's one of the big things in technical analysis is if we have multiple criteria giving us results, it's a more powerful result. Let's take one more quick look at this just to show you some results. We're going to go into the Explorer. We're just going to do the PowerStrike scan again here. And let's just have it look at the S&P 100 list for us, just so I can show you some of the different results that you might get. Okay, so this is giving us just a few results here again. Okay, so what we can look for now is these are all buy enabled, so if I had a different indicator that was giving me a trigger, I could use this as a confirmation. The SR ratio, again, will give me my scoring. So if we were to pull up Simon Profit Group here, click Open Chart. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and open this up with the adaptive PowerStrike template by right-clicking, going to adaptive PowerStrike, choose Apply. So you can see that criteria coming together to give us that trigger. So again, what are we looking for? For the close to be above the downstrike, our time series forecast to be above, and then we're also looking for that scoring. So let's just look at our expert commentary again. So we can see that our upstrike score is 0. We don't have anything going on up here. Downstrike score is at 18, and our buy-in's enabled. All the criteria is met. So we can use this as a confirmation to that entry. So just to recap, again, the PowerStrike is designed around support and resistance, but using those levels of the option strike price to help us know when to get in and when to get out based off of commonly used pricing and the tendency of price to congregate around it. So use this as a confirmation on your trading strategy. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on PowerStrike. Using this can be a strong confirmation again for your trades. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact us at MetaStock Sales. Thank you.